great shock spread the world when the news of Dr. Tetsu Nakamura broke out. He had been dedicating his time in Afghanistan for humanitarian work, but was assassinated by an unknown group of gunmen on the 4th of December 2019. It can be easily seen from all the pictures of him that he was a kind man who cared for and tried to live like the local people in Afghanistan, was trusted and loved by the people there. Let's have a look then why he was a hero to them. The very first time Dr. Nakamura visited the area was in 1978, where he joined a Hindu Kush expedition, as the expedition had been recruiting a doctor to go with them. Usually, you would imagine such a doctor to be a physician, but strictly speaking, Dr. Nakamura was a psychiatrist, so having been able to join the troop itself was, in a way, lucky, or would you say it was meant to be? Hindu Kush is a 1,200 kilometers long mountain range that stretches across mostly in Afghanistan. The northern parts go on into Pakistan, Tajikistan and China. He decided to join this expedition as he was interested in mountains, especially the butterflies that could be found there. Dr. Nakamura says that if he wasn't interested in insects, he wouldn't have gone to this expedition. And if he never knew the local postmaster in his hometown, where he was a young boy, there probably was no Afghanistan in his life, because he was the one who told him so much about insects. Some years later, after the expedition, he was asked to work in that Middle East area, which he gladly accepted, because he has come to like the place from the trip. His assignment that started from 1984 was initially in Pakistan, the adjacent country to Afghanistan, mainly to cooperate with the Control Project for Leprosy through Peshawar Kai, an international NGO organization in Japan that was set up to support Dr. Nakamura's activities, together with Peace Japan Medical Services, serving as a hub in Peshawar, Pakistan. However, soon the Afghan refugees from the war started to come to this clinic as well. Hearing that there were no doctors nor clinics available from where they came, the organization started to build clinics in Afghanistan too, and that's where it all began. Dr. Nakamura probably never realized he was staying in that country for more than 30 years from then on. With the historic drought that hit Afghanistan that went on for at least a few decades, many people suffered from hunger and thirst. Those brought to the clinics with diseases were mostly due to malnutrition and lack of clean water. It wasn't uncommon to see children being unable to resist drinking dirty water to quench their thirst. Things were really that bad. Children suffered most, with many dying. One irrigation canal will contribute more than 100 doctors. This idea of Dr. Nakamura prompted him to the making of canals into the desert. No such project had been a success in the past, being technically difficult, added to the necessity of a large sum of money and manpower. However, Dr. Nakamura believed that this project was the quickest way to lessen the terrible situation. And with so many supporters in Japan, the NGO organization of Peshawar Kai had plenty of funds to back up and help launch this project. Dr. Nakamura first worked on the wells. Many of them were dried up with the drought. The work was done mostly manually, and they sometimes had to dig even 90 meters deep to get the water. After 6 years, they managed to provide more than 1,600 wells. However, Dr. Nakamura was not satisfied with just this. Drinking water was secured, but people needed food as well. His next plan was to build canals into the desert. More than 80% of the population in Afghanistan were farmers. Dry land with no crops meant no food and work. So many local farmers cooperated in the construction of the canals, and this number increased with their hope of reviving their farmland. People from the refugee camps started joining too, traveling from afar with the same hope. The ex-Taliban combatants and ex-mercenary soldiers who were with the American army were also there. They left such armies and came to join to construct the canals, even when the payment was much less than before, which perhaps shows what they wish to see and where their true desire is. It was really hard work for these people working in the canals, since they had to work in the hot sun and the temperature could sometimes reach 50 degrees Celsius or over 120 Fahrenheit. However, more than 400 people worked hard every day without any complaints, partly because the fund from Peshawar Kai has also been able to provide daily wages to the workers, and that helped them get by, and probably because they decided to believe in Dr. Nakamura. Their endeavors bore fruit with the project, and look how all the bare land turned green. The desert that was called the Death Valley is now a field of green. People who knew that place would never believe it until they actually saw it with their own eyes. The work here too was done mostly manually. With Dr. Nakamura's prospective mind, this was so that maintenance and mending could be done by the local people themselves. Constructing using concrete was not impossible, but when the supporters are gone, the local people would be unable to maintain it by themselves, and it was too expensive as well. Things are very different in this country compared to developed countries, and not even the government will be able to help them either. So, when Dr. Nakamura came up with the traditional Japanese method using jackago to strengthen the canals, something like gabion, where they used wire nets and stones. Stones are used traditionally in Afghanistan, and it was abundant in the country, so this jackago was a perfect way for them. Responding to the earnest request of the people, what he did next was to set up a mosque together with a madrasa, a school next to it. A mosque for them is a central place for the community as well as being a place of worship, since disputes among them are resolved at times. Dr. Nakamura not only has saved their lives, but has brought light into their hearts as well. Dr. Nakamura himself was, in fact, a Christian, but he knew from their responses that building a mosque was a true joy that could even exceed that from building a canal. He was once asked by the Afghans why he was doing so much in the country of Islam when he was a Christian. He answered, "We're heading the same place. It's just that the route is different." He even prayed together with Islams. Dr. Nakamura didn't just think of satisfying the people for now, but looked ahead in the future as well. He probably knew that being self-reliant can lead to happiness in every way, and he also knew that supporters like him may not be with them forever. Having that vision, he decided to build a new village at the downstream of the canal. The canals will need maintenance every few decades. People who have attained the knowledge of the canals will live in that village with their family, so that they can also serve as the caretakers of the canal. The place was originally a desert, and in Afghanistan, the first person who takes the undeveloped land is able to own the land. The faithful people who have followed Dr. Nakamura all the way through the hardships were blessed to receive a reward of owning the new land. When he was asked by one of the leaders of Peshawar Kai whether he was thinking about those who will take over his work in the future. Dr. Nakamura simply answered, "The canals will take over my work." Even so, he knew well. Dr. Nakamura went another step ahead. He wanted to spread these canals, if possible, across the nation to irrigate the barren land. However, he knew his life was limited and he couldn't do everything. He decided to set up a training school to cultivate human resources for this project to continue on, and personally created the textbook for this. The training school has already opened up and lessons started in January 2018, about a year before he was gone. Although Dr. Nakamura is there no more, he has prepared everything before he went. He has left trained people to be the future leaders and records that tell all that should be known. There had been, of course, many hardships and unexpected incidents that couldn't be mentioned here, but the wonderful successes can be clearly seen as part of the long-time desert is now covered in green, the canal nourishing 16,500 hectares of the land, which is about half of Fukuoka City, Dr. Nakamura's hometown. The smiles of all the little children and the people testify, above all, the happiness that has been brought back to the people there. Dr. Nakamura was also affectionately known as Kaka Murad, meaning Uncle Murad, by the people in Afghanistan. He was born in Fukuoka City, Fukuoka Prefecture, which is located in Kyushu, the southern part of Japan. His uncle is Ashihei Hino, a writer who has won the renowned Akutagawa Prize in Japan. Dr. Nakamura's motto was, "Go where nobody wants to go, do what nobody wants to do." Even though the local staffs felt concerned when Dr. Nakamura suggested the Green Ground Project at the beginning, feeling it was rather a wild scheme, Dr. Nakamura was firm, believing it will lead to saving hundreds of lives. Dr. Nakamura was a doctor, but he was not ashamed to take off his white clothes. He would operate a crane or carry the stones, hoping that everyone will follow, because he knew that although it may take a very long time, it was the extension of his medical activity to save people's lives and lessen diseases. He had no knowledge of civil engineering, but acquired them by reading specialized books and visiting similar canals in Japan that might help provide ideas. Of course, he couldn't understand the concept in the books well, so he had to start from restudying differentials and integrals by borrowing his daughter's math textbooks. It was lucky, or perhaps it was the wisdom of God, that Dr. Nakamura was born in Fukuoka, because that was the very place where Dr. Nakamura found a canal built more than 200 years ago, and yet still in good condition, with extremely similar situations to those that were to be built in Afghanistan, so that he could take that as a model and solve the problems. Although they had to retreat temporarily to Pakistan when the war got fierce in Afghanistan and made all the younger staff return to Japan after one of them got killed in 2008, he decided to remain alone and carry on with the work. He has been returning to Japan now and then, giving speeches to the public and reports to the supporters of Peshawar Khai about Afghanistan and his work, and also checking and looking up various information that he could bring back to Afghanistan. He did have his own family with 5 children back in Japan, and of course wanted to be with them, but there were serious matters that stopped him from leaving Afghanistan. Dr. Nakamura was able to help the Afghans for more than 3 decades, not only because of the supporters of Peshawar Khai, but also because his wife and children understood and supported him. He probably always had the Afghan people in his mind, even when he was in Japan. His grandmother Man's teaching of take the lead to protect the weak, respect even the smallest life, was at the base. He certainly was a hard worker, never giving up, which he seems to have inherited from his grandparents. Dr. Nakamura had told one of the reliable local staff a year ago that he wanted to be buried in the place he loved most, in the now beautiful green part of the Gambari Desert, and according to his will, part of his remains has been taken back to Afghanistan. Just like he could never forget about the Afghan people, the people in Afghanistan will for sure never forget about him, passing on his story from generation to generation. Dr. Nakamura has once said to the local staff, "I don't mind if I were to die if it was for the Afghans and the canals." Sadly, his words have been fulfilled in a tragic manner, but there are also the following words in the Bible which Dr. Nakamura, being a Christian, probably read repeatedly. "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." John chapter 15, verse 13. I'm sure God has accepted Dr. Nakamura as the true disciple of Christ, and he has no doubt been welcomed into heaven.